Hello and welcome to TTV News with some latest events in TayNinhTV province and across the country. Ladies and gentlemen, on April 11, Lieutenant General Nguyễn Hải Hưng, Deputy Chairman of the National Assembly's Committee for National Defense, Security and Foreign Affairs, led a working delegation to TayNinhTV Provincial Youth Committee to review, gather feedback and revise the draft law on the state of emergency and survey the status of border demarcation and marker placement along the Vietnam-Cambodia border. Meanwhile, acting chairman of the People's Committee Nguyễn Hồng Thanh represented TayNinhTV province.
Speaking at the meeting, acting chairman Nguyễn Hồng Thanh stated that from 2000 until now, the province has maintained political security stability without any major disasters or dangerous pandemics requiring emergency measures. However, during the 2020 COVID-19 pandemic, emergency measures were implemented according to the Prime Minister Directive number 15 and Directive number 16 on the urgent COVID-19 prevention and control measures across the entire province. In recent times, local party committees and the governments at all levels have led and organized the drills at the provincial, district and the commune levels in the response to various scenarios: defensive combat, natural disaster prevention and search and rescue, forest fire prevention, explosion and building collapse rescue, and civil air defense drills according to plan. Lieutenant General Nguyễn Hải Hưng appreciated the achievements of the TayNinhTV Provincial Youth Committee in implementing legal policy related to the state of emergency, border management and protection, national defense, and maintaining the social order and safety within the province. At the same time, he acknowledged the practical recommendations from local authorities and units, which will be considered in the further improving the inspection report on the draft law, helping to establish a more comprehensive, robust, and practical legal framework.
On the afternoon of April 11, a delegation led by Mr. Phạm Quang Nghị, former Politburo member and former secretary of Hanoi Party Committee, visited TayNinhTV province, returning to the former revolutionary base where he once lived and fought during the resistance war against the United States. The visit took place in a warm and sentimental atmosphere in celebration of the 50th anniversary of the liberation of the South and national reunification, April 30th. Mr. Phạm Quang Nghị shared heartfelt memories and expressed his deep gratitude to the land and people of TayNinhTV. Mr. Phạm Hồng Thái, Permanent Deputy Secretary of TayNinhTV Provincial Party Committee, sincerely thanked Mr. Nghị and the delegation for their continued care and affection toward the province. On this occasion, Mr. Phạm Quang Nghị presented 30 copies of the book Nơi ấy là chiến trường, or That Place Was the Battlefield in English, a work he personally compiled and authored, recounting his years of combat and service in Battlefield B during the war. In the first quarter of 2025, the People's Committee of TayNinhTV City has accelerated the construction of 2 new houses and the renovation of 14 houses for revolution contributors. It also built 4 new houses and repaired 7 houses for poor and near-poor households based on both national and provincial poverty standards. In addition, the city has started construction on 24 Red Solidarity houses and 11 Gratitude houses, with plans to hand them over by mid-April 2025.
And on April 11th, the Custom Enterprise Dialogue Conference for the first quarter of 2025 was held at Trang Bang Industrial Park by the Region Customs Sub-Department 16 and chaired by Mr. Nguyễn Thanh Bình, Deputy Head of the Sub-Department, with the participation of 117 import-export businesses operating within the province. According to the report, in the first quarter of 2025, import-export activities in TayNinhTV continued to show positive growth. Export turnover was estimated at over $1.65 billion, up to 11.5% year-on-year, while import turnover reached more than $1.6 billion and marked an increase of nearly 19%. In 2024, over 44% of exports from Tây Ninh, Bình Dương, and Bình Phước were destined for the U.S. market. In the first 3 months of this year, the figure stood at 42.6%. The new tax policy is expected to have a strong impact on export businesses. In response, it has implemented several support measures for enterprises, and the task forces were established to visit businesses directly, get information on their advantages and obstacles in export operation, summarize and propose solutions and resolve issues within their jurisdiction, ensuring the most favorable conditions for businesses. At the conference, the key updates relevant to custom procedures were shared with the business community, and this included important points to note in declarations, common errors in the processing manufacturing for export and export processing operations, as well as risks related to digital signatures when delegated to custom agents or third-party declaration services. Within the framework of the event, the businesses raised several concerns and challenges encountered during import-export activities, and these issues were directly addressed and clarified on-site by the representatives from the Regional Customs Sub-Department 16 and the Customs team at Trang Bang Industrial Park.
Ladies and gentlemen, 15 years after the complete liberation of the South and the reunification of the country, the socio-economic landscape of the Tayninh province has seen significant progress. By the end of 2024, GDP is estimated to reach 64,500 billion Vietnam dong. Today, it is regarded as a land of unique potential, outstanding opportunities, competitive advantages, and drawing value for investors and enterprises.
In the early days after liberation, Taynin's economy was predominantly agriculture, and however, most of the land was average, irrigation systems were lacking, and farming techniques were underdeveloped, and productivity was low also. Industry contributed only 2% of the GDP, and commerce and services were fragmented. Infrastructure was extremely poor, and there was no large factories or enterprises, only a few small-scale agriculture and forestry processing workshops. In 1993, Taynin received first 2 FDI projects with a total registered capital of over 3.8 million US dollar, a milestone that marked the beginning of a wave for the foreign investment in Taynin. And today, the number of investors coming to Taynin continued to rise. From just 2 projects, the province now has over 700 domestic investment projects and nearly 400 active project investment projects. We chose Taynin for the investment because the transportation system here is very convenient, with links to Ho Chi Minh City, Bà Rịa Vũng Tàu, and also Mộc Bài Bordergate. The investment environment is also very favorable, and the provincial leadership actively supports and accompanies the businesses. I think Taynin offers an excellent investment environment not only for Vietnamese companies but also for foreign ones. And we have seen that the province cares deeply about the worker well-being and business interests, which is why we chose to invest and grow here. It is effectively implementing a scheme to improve the scores and rankings in PCI, PABI, and PAR index, CPAS, CIT index for the 2021 to 2025 period. Additionally, on March 28 of 2025, the Provincial People's Council passed a resolution on preferential policies, including the land rent exemptions for investment projects in priority sectors, and with a spirit of innovation, responsibility, and a commitment to working alongside investors, particularly by enhancing the investment environment. Taynin is increasingly becoming a friendly, safe, prosperous, and dynamic destination for both domestic and international investors. Together with our Dutch partner, the host group, we were invested in several projects in Taynin, and we found the provincial government to be very connected to and supportive of businesses, creating favorable conditions in line with the legal regulations. We highly value the role of the Provincial People's Committee and its departments for their strong support. One of the highlights here is the increasing number of investment projects expanding their operations, which reflects the improving investment environment and growing investor confidence. Another key point is the rapid deployment and implementation progress of industrial joint projects, contributing significantly to the province's economic growth. And currently, TayNin is actively pursuing a stronger and more comprehensive regional integration to drive rapid and sustainable socio-economic development. The province is taking initiative in interregional transportation infrastructure development, leveraging spillover effects to enhance the natural urban, commercial, and service growth throughout the Southeast region, and thereby attracting the further investment. The goal is that by 2030, TayNin will be a dynamic, civilized province offering a high quality of life, climate resilience, and will become a desirable place to visit and live.
Turn to other remarkable domestic news. The audience on April 10, 2025 local time, as part of his visit to the United States in his capacity as Special Envoy of General Secretary Tolam to discuss bilateral economic and trade issues, Deputy Prime Minister Ho deferred to working meetings with U.S. Secretary of the Treasury Scott Bessent and Secretary of Commerce Howard Lutnick.
And during his meeting with the Secretary Scott Bessent, Deputy Prime Minister Ho appreciated the mutual agreement to begin negotiations on a reciprocal trade agreement, including discussion on the tariff arrangements. And he affirmed that Vietnam is ready to enter negotiations and proposed that both sides promptly engage in detailed discussion to reach an agreement as soon as possible. The Secretary Scott Bessent thanked Vietnam for its timely and proactive measures in addressing U.S. concerns, welcomed the mutual consensus on initiating negotiations for a bilateral trade agreement, and confirmed that the U.S. administration has appointed him as the head of negotiation team with Vietnam.
On April 11 at Hội nghị International Border Gate, a joint delegation of young officers from Vietnam's Lang Son, Portugal, and young staff from the Guangxi Intra-State Border Inspection General Station, China, organized a legal awareness and education program for residents living along the Vietnam-China border. At the event, Major General Nguyễn Anh Tuấn, Political Commissioner of the Vietnam Portugal Command, emphasized that coordinated activities border forces from both countries introduce local residents to key points of the agreement on land border management regulations between Vietnam and China, and the agreement on border gate and border gate management regulations on the land border between the two countries. Ladies and gentlemen, 79 years ago, on April 11, 1946, President Ho Chi Minh wrote a letter calling on Vietnamese landowners and farmers to participate in agricultural cooperatives. This marked the birth of the cooperative model in Vietnam. In TayNin, over the past years, the collective economic model and cooperatives have undergone positive changes, playing a vital role in achieving local socio-economic development goals. In recent years, the collective economy in TayNin has gradually developed in both quantity and quality, with increasingly diverse forms of cooperation. By the end of 2024, the province had 133 working groups and 195 active corporations. Among these, cooperatives have played a key role in mobilizing and encouraging farmers to innovate their thinking and practices, apply scientific and technical advances, enhance production efficiency, and engage in joint ventures and partnerships to secure stable markets for their products. Our cooperative is organizing link production chains from supplying agricultural materials and sales to scheduling crop planting for members, and we commit to purchasing their harvest. Compared to traditional spontaneous production, where farmers often face the dilemma of bumper crops with low prices or high prices with produce, our cooperative provides structured planting schedule and supports farmers through both production and product consumption, giving them peace of mind. Each year, TayNin sees the establishment of 10 to 15 new cooperatives. More and more agricultural cooperatives are engaging in high-tech applications to reduce costs and boost productivity. The products they produce meet food safety standards and fetch higher prices, bringing greater benefits to members involved in the collective economy model. Currently, about 70% of the cooperatives in the province operate at a fairly good level or better. The average annual revenue of a cooperative is nearly 10 billion Vietnam dong, with average profits of about 600 million Vietnam dong per cooperative per year. Looking ahead, TayNin is prioritizing the development of cooperatives in tandem with green economy and circular economy principles. The province also aims to strongly reform the operational models of cooperatives by increasing efficiency, labor productivity, and product quality, while enhancing linkage and participation in value chains to improve the market's competitiveness of cooperative products.
And on April 11, Team Today, Dong Nai Province, for the first time, units from Ministry of National Defense and Ministry of Public Security conducted a joint rehearsal in preparation for the 50th anniversary of the liberation of the South and the national reunification. The parade rehearsal involved 47 marching formations divided into 2 groups with the participation of over 10,000 officers and soldiers from various branches of the armed forces, including the military and police forces. As part of the rehearsal, the Vietnamese conducted a flyover sled and featuring 10 helicopters, 7 Su-30 Mk2 fighter jets, and Yak-130 multi-role training aircraft. After the rehearsal, the parade and marching subcommittee met with participating units to conduct evaluation, make adjustments, and draw lessons in preparation for the next comprehensive joint rehearsal.
According to the latest data from the Foreign Investment Agency under the Ministry of Finance, as of the end of March 2025, total foreign direct investment (FDI) registered in Vietnam reached nearly $11 billion, marking a 34.7% increase compared to the same period in 2024. Specifically, in the first quarter of 2025, total FDI registered in Vietnam had $10.98 billion, up 34.7% year-on-year. Of this, 850 new FDI projects were licensed with a total registered capital of $4.33 billion, an 11.5% increase in the number of projects, though a 31.5% decrease in registered capital compared to the same period last year. The manufacturing and processing sector attracted the largest share of new FDI, with registered capital totaling $2.62 billion, accounting for 60.5% of the newly licensed capital. Among the 53 countries and territories with newly licensed investment projects in Vietnam, during the first 3 months of 2025, Singapore emerged as the largest investor. Ladies and gentlemen, on the evening of April 9, Bắc Ninh Province, in coordination with Vietnam's Ministry of Foreign Affairs, successfully organized the program Vietnam, the Essence of Culture and the Aspiration to Rise, aimed at promoting Vietnamese cultural values with a particular focus on advocating for UNESCO recognition of Dong Ho forged paintings as an intangible cultural heritage in need of urgent safeguarding. In his speech at the event, Vice Chairman of Bắc Ninh Province Socialist Committee Lê Xuân Lợi introduced international friends to a land rich in historical and cultural traditions, home to a diverse and vibrant treasury of Vietnamese folk culture. Deputy Minister Ngô Lê Vân also affirmed that Bắc Ninh is a cultural heartland of Vietnam and the birthplace of Dong Ho folk paintings, which he described as a profound declaration of the Vietnamese way of life in harmony with nature. The highlight of the event was the campaign to have Dong Ho folk paintings recognized as an intangible cultural heritage requiring urgent protection by UNESCO. Attendees were invited to experience the traditional Dong Ho painting craft firsthand. Under the guidance of artisan Nguyễn Đăng Tâm, UNESCO General Assembly President Simona Mirela Michiulescu personally rented her own Dong Ho painting. I'm very emotional because exactly 1 year ago, I visited Hanoi on an official trip as the president of the UNESCO General Conference, and it was one of the most unforgettable trips for me, and I'm very proud that now I'm able to create a painting of a Vietnamese drinking by myself. Guests were also treated to the soulful melodies of Quang Hao folk songs, enjoy a variety of signature Vietnamese dishes, and sip on traditional tastes rich in national identity. With a series of activities both domestically and internationally, and with the official dossier we have submitted to UNESCO, we sincerely hope that in 2025, Drum Hall folk paintings will be recognized as an intangible cultural heritage in need of urgent safeguarding by UNESCO. The event concluded with strong hopes that Drum Hall folk paintings will soon receive UNESCO recognition, helping to preserve and promote this unique cultural treasure of the Vietnamese people. And today TTV News wraps up now. Thank you for your attention and see you in the next program.